Hello, Choralosophy audience. This is Chris Muntz, and it is the middle of the summer. I am recording this on July 20th. I just got back from a long vacation and took a little bit of a break from all things related to the show and to school and to music in general, and coming back to the reality, I guess, of a continuously changing landscape. And we look forward to next school year. We still don't know what it's going to look like in terms of COVID restrictions and all kinds of things that are just continue to be a pain in our butts. And I am pushing off that reality as long as I possibly can. So for this very short little update, I'm going to let you know that what I have done is I've curated a list of what I think are the most important episodes on the past 2.5 years of the Choralosophy Podcast feed that if you have not listened to, you aren't ready for school to start, number one. And if you have already listened to them, it's time to brush up. And so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a case for the idea that professional development is something that is ongoing. We must be a professional educator. Our students deserve it, and the music deserves it. And one of the things that we have to do in order to be a professional educator is to allow ourselves to swallow the bitter pill that we actually aren't good enough. I know the popular culture would tell us that, just always remember you're good enough. You're enough. And as many of you know, I disagree wholeheartedly with that mentality because it encourages complacency. We can do two things at once. We can hold two concepts at once in our head. One is that I am morally enough. I deserve to be loved. I deserve to love myself. That's one concept. I can also hold another concept that understands that I am human and I am flawed, and if I take my profession seriously, then I want to constantly get better. Now, a couple things stick out to me as things that teachers must master and continue to get better and better at in order to be master teachers in the choral music area. And one of those is developing literate, independent musicians, and the other is having our students come out with a solid understanding of what the voice is, how it functions, what is the anatomy of the voice, what is the physiology of the voice, and how does it work? If those two big categories, we are able to instill some kind of level of understanding and proficiency in our students, then we will become better and better teachers every year because everything else that we do flows for that. So for this Midsummer installment on the Choralosophy Podcast, I'm encouraging you to take a professional development break from your summer fun, not to work per se, but to just find out times during the day to go back and brush up on some of these concepts that have been discussed on the show. And as I'm going to call out some really important episodes to go back and find. So in the category of the voice science, you are going to need to go back and listen to still one of the most popular episodes on the show, and that was with Don Brinegar, called Can Pitches Be Perfect? And Don and I discuss tuning systems and why it's important for our students to understand them, to understand the concepts of overtones and intonation and how the piano is not really actually in tune. And as we listen to each other as singers, we make tiny adjustments that the piano can't make. But then we also talk about on that episode how tuning systems are different from culture to culture. And so one of the best ways for students to understand that and to be able to adjust to it as we perform music from different cultures is to teach them as their fundamental just a cappella intonation, because that gets them in the habit of listening and adjusting those microtones. And as they encounter then music from different cultures, they're able to make those adjustments because it's natural to them. It's like swimming as a fish in water. We also then have an episode that you got to go back and find, which is episode 26 with Amanda Quist. Dr. Quist and I talked about something very tangential, which is a little bit more into the weeds of how overtones work and how the vowels of the singers align and create sympathetic overtones. And that's really where our choral blend should come from, rather than the removal of the overtones, which is what a lot of us do, where we put Band-Aid vowels around things and then we get blend, but we kind of, as I call it, cheat. We cheat to get blend by eliminating the upper partials rather than teaching singers how to align the upper partials. Then there's also an episode, it was episode 44, and this was with Dr. Andrew Crane and Dr. Jamie Rhodes, where we talked about the things that they tell their choirs in terms of vocal pedagogy in the choir rehearsal, because one of the things that we recognize, or should, is that when we are trying to give a voice lesson to a choir of 50, we are going to be telling someone the wrong information in almost all cases. So what are the things that really simplify what you can tell your choir so that you are telling them something that is true for everyone? Because there are a lot of things that we learned from our voice teacher, for example, that were maybe those things were true for us in our voice lessons, but they might not be true for every body type, every gender, every person, individual, depending on the shape of all their body parts involved. Those could be different. And on that very similar topic, we did at Choralosophy Con a presentation where Beth, my wife, who's a fantastic voice teacher, trying to not be biased, but she transforms the voices that she works with, and she has put together a presentation on a similar topic, which is the things that choir teachers shouldn't say. And it falls into that category as well, because we're talking then about the things that if you say them because they were true for you, you could actually be confusing more of your students than you're helping. Things relate like lifting the soft palate, which is doesn't really mean what we think it means. Breathing from the diaphragm, of course, those are the big ones, the ones that everybody knows. But then she goes much further into depth, and that's actually a conversation. You're going to see a video clip in the show notes if you go look at it on the website, but the entire thing is on the Patreon private podcast feed, because that was a live presentation. So you'll be able to find that at patreon.com/Choralosophy, and then you'll get a link for $3 a month. You get a bunch of all this extra stuff over there. So head over there and find that presentation. So in the category of literacy development, of course, the show kind of put itself on the map back with episode 18, which was ripping off the Band-Aid and talking about ways to develop your choir program as extremely literate, meaning they don't need the piano playing for them. And I will die on this hill, choir people. Your kids at any age don't need the notes to be played for them. They just don't. I got a lot of feedback from that episode, some of it which was very confrontational, mostly because the response being, well, you don't know my situation. And I just would like to continue to politely push back that you don't know anybody's situation. None of us do, right? But there are certain processes that work, and there are certain ways that are pretty fundamental to the way our human brain works. And with the right auditory framework, any person can learn to do this, especially when they start building these habits. So go back to episode 18. Then a very important one right after that is episode 21, and that's how I grade in the choir rehearsal, which you've got to have an accountability in a school choir in order for some of these concepts to really sink in. So go back and hit episode 21 as well. That is, by the way, all these links are in the show notes. Episode 21 is called Anyone Can Get an A in Choir, and that has to do with the psychology of grading on growth versus grading on benchmarks, which is really important for singers because, as you all know, we come to choir, all of us, with very different backgrounds in terms of what we know and understand. And if we get kids in our classroom that start way behind other kids, they learn really quickly. Well, they're just not as good. And their grade reflects that sometimes if they don't meet the benchmark of someone else. Now, the other problem is, of course, we fix that the wrong way by giving easy A's to everyone. In other words, by being in the room and not punching someone that day, if you're in 8th grade, you get an A in choir or whatever it is, right? Well, that's harmful too to their own ability to perceive themselves as competent, because kids are smart. They know they didn't earn that grade. So what if there was a way to have everyone really truly earning their grades, but also everyone can get an A if they are showing growth rather than benchmarks? Then there's episode 52 with John Sargent, where we came back and talked about some of those concepts even more. And then there's episode 69, where I actually filmed, this is called Higher Standards and Lower Anxiety, where I actually filmed a couple of my freshman girls recording their sight singing final exam. And that's a short episode as well. You can go back and check that. And I recommend the YouTube video of that so you can actually see the test happen in real time. So that's really cool. And so in the show notes for this, you're going to find all the links to all those episodes. Plus, I went ahead and embedded a couple podcast players so that you can just go back and scroll through all of these episodes as a way to, if you don't have any conventions you're able to go to this year, or you're doing a lot of road tripping like I just did, a podcast is really, I think, the best way to get PD in your pocket for free and you just have access to it to go back and refresh and be energized in the fact that you are competent, you are able to do your job and continue to do it better and better and better and be a professional educator. Coming up in August, you are going to be hearing a whole bunch from me. I can't tell you who's coming on the show because that is a perk that the Patreon subscribers get. Again, patreon.com/Choralosophy for as little as $3 a month. Those folks get to find out who's coming on the show in August. And my goodness, you guys, it's exciting who we've got coming on. But I can give you some overall topics. We are going to be talking about inspiring rehearsals. We are going to be talking about the great history of our art form with a very, very distinguished guest, maybe amongst the most distinguished that you could possibly have in the choral world. You can start guessing now. And then there will also be a back-to-school COVID episode with a doctor who has actually been involved directly with the Biden administration and the CDC and some studies that really influenced the back-to-school guidance from there. And so we're going to talk about that and some of the misunderstandings, because my goodness, as long as the politicians get involved and the media gets involved in what the science says, people will misunderstand. And that is, of course, happening, and that is going on right now as well. I'm really concerned about that because I would like to go back to school in as normal of a possible way as of course, guided by the science, and we will be talking about that in August as well. So make sure you keep your ears tuned to the Choralosophy Podcast and go back and get those reviews in, and we will be seeing you more frequently as we get closer to school. Thanks, everybody.